Make the big game look and sound even better at Buy Clever Stuff. Proud sponsors of Chester CFCTV.
Right, good evening, welcome to Chester Football Club for this evening's open meeting. Obviously, the aim of tonight is to give you an update on our aspirations for a community sports facility in Chester. That's not just for supporters and members of City Fans United. We felt it was really important that this meeting was open to the wider public, people involved in grassroots sport, people who live in Chester and would like to know more about this scheme. What I'm proposing to do is run through some of the background of the scheme. You have to bear with me because I think I'm losing my voice, so no songs tonight. So I'm going to run through some background of the scheme, run through what we're trying to achieve, what our vision is for this proposal, what we were, the site in question, so what the site is like now, and what we would hope to deliver at that site. Then we'll have a couple of guest speakers who will talk about their involvement in the scheme to date, and then we'll look to open the floor to their questions and answers. And please feel free to ask anything that you'd like to know. So, to give you some background on the scheme, hopefully that's working. So this is a long-held aspiration for Chester Football Club. Some of you may know that I was on the original board of the club back in 2010, and I can remember sitting in the boardroom and we were talking about the importance of having our own facility and the problems that people face in Chester and Cheshire West in accessing good quality facilities. I think Mike Vickers, who's a director of the Community Trust and was a director of the football club, reminded me that one of the first sites we actually looked at is the site that we're now proposing to develop. So we've kind of gone full circle. But I think I look around this room, I see a lot of people who I know from involvement in football and other sports, and hopefully I'm sure you will all agree that facilities in terms of quality have diminished significantly over the last 10 to 15 years, primarily due to a lack of investment, and we understand the pressures that local authorities are under in that regard, and the good quality facilities that do exist are either extremely difficult to access or extremely difficult to afford. So we've looked at a number of locations in the Chester and surrounding area, and for various reasons they've been discounted. The most obvious place to start was the stadium. We've obviously got a substantial car park at the site, and the question is often asked, why don't we do something with that? We had it measured, and unfortunately a full-size 3G pitch, which is really what we're aspiring to, just wouldn't fit on the footprint of the car park. We then looked at a substantial piece of land just over on Bumpers Lane, just across the road, and went quite far down the way with that project, but unfortunately that wasn't viable due to the proposed relief road, which would run right through the middle of that site. So from a planning and funding perspective, that site was blighted. We then looked at a site in Ellesmere Port, which wouldn't have been ideal given we're a Chester Football Club. We wanted to have a presence in Chester, but we did have to cast our net a little further afield. But again, that didn't feel like the right solution, and it didn't really fit with what we're trying to do. So we went back to the drawing board and we spoke to the council and asked them if they had any thoughts on a suitable site, and that's where we went back to this site. So the need, and you'll hear from some people tonight about the need, and when we talk about that, it's not just for Chester Football Club. Again, it's the need for grassroots sport. We need better facilities, we need investment in sports facilities. That's easier said than done, but if we, the pitches are getting worse, the weather is becoming more freakish, as you will have seen over recent weekends. There's been very little football played on grass pitches, and it's increasingly difficult to find an artificial pitch available. So the need is greater than ever. So we've done a lot of work to get to this point. We worked with stakeholders. The council are obviously an important part of that. We've also worked with governing bodies, funding agencies, and engaged with local leagues. We've done some engagement with clubs, but that will very much be a key part of where we go now in terms of the wider consultation. We've done that to try and understand what's available at the moment, to try and identify sites that might be suitable for a development of this nature, and to try and understand what people are looking for and what we need. So to get to this point now, we now have an approved investment from the local authority in football facilities across the borough. I'm pleased to say that that includes the scheme that we are proposing to take forward this evening. We also have agreed a substantial donation with Stuart Murphy in this project. So for those of you who aren't familiar, Stuart is a supporter of the club who has already agreed to donate £1 million to help the club develop its infrastructure and become more sustainable in the long term. We went and met with Stuart and told him a little bit about the community trust, about the work we do locally and about this project. And Stuart was really receptive. He understands the club's position in the community, and he understands the power we've got to have a positive impact on people's lives in Cheshire West. And we're really pleased that Stuart has agreed to donate £200,000 to this project, which is a really substantial amount, and that's on top of his existing donation to the football club. I think Stuart is hoping to join us at some point this evening, but he is in and out of the country on business, so if he's not able to make it, he does send his apologies. So moving on, in terms of what is our vision and what are we trying to achieve. So ultimately we want to create something that will be a thriving hub for local sport. We are the most senior sports club in Chester, and we believe we have a responsibility to use that status to encourage more people to play sport, to create more opportunities in sport. And I'm purposefully using the word sport as opposed to football, because we've got to recognise that not everybody loves football. I would hope most of the people in this room do, that's why you're here, but not everybody does. There are other sports, and if we can engage young people, children, and get them playing other sports, then I think we've got to see that as good work. So this will be a significant investment in grassroots sport. It will be a significant improvement of facilities, not just for sport but also for the wider community. So one of the things that came up was that there is a lack of affordable community facilities for meetings, functions, events. We're hoping that we can address that as well in this site, so it'll be about more than sport. We want to increase participation in sport, and we want to help improve the health and well-being of people in Cheshire West. That fits very much with the council's aspirations, and we think that's something that we are able to do, but this facility will enable us to do that much greater. We want to provide new opportunities, and in that there'll be a specific focus on disability sport and women's and girls football. So hopefully you've all seen the success that the Lionesses have had, massive increases in the number of girls playing football, particularly in Chester, very much down to the work of grassroots clubs. We want to work with them to try and take that to the next level. I think there's been an announcement today that Barclays are going to invest £10 million in women's football, so that is a real growth area. And that's something we want to be part of. We've obviously got our own women's team and under-18s women's team who are doing really well. So what we want to do is try and get more girls playing football across Chester, and then create a pathway for those girls to move up and hopefully play at the highest possible level. We would hope that's with Chester Football Club as they progress up the pyramid as well. We want to establish a new post-16 education provision through the BTEC programme, and also create some apprenticeships. So we've engaged with some people in Blacon who've identified that there is a lack of post-16 provision in Blacon at present. So Blacon High School doesn't have a sixth form, and the BTEC sport, which we now deliver through the football club through the academy, the nearest available course would be in Ellesmere Port. I live in Blacon, and I know if I was a 16-year-old, that's not always easy. It's 2 bus journeys. Free transport isn't readily available now for students as well, so that's a significant cost for the student and their families. We believe we've got an opportunity to establish a post-16 provision for 16 to 18-year-olds to gain vocational qualifications whilst gaining practical work experience, supporting our coaches in schools and in the community settings, and hopefully they will then go on and into full-time employment or off to university to study and be more aspirational. I think this one is crucial, and this is what will probably set us apart from a lot of other facilities. The Community Trust, as you may know, is a charity, and obviously we are governed by the Charities Commission. What we won't be doing through this facility is generating profits and then banking them or diverting them to other areas. Any profits we make through this site will be reinvested in the facility to make it better, or will go to support the work that we're doing in the community and in local schools. So I think that's something that's really important, that will set us apart from some of the other facilities in the area. And this one for me is why we do it, why we do what we do. We want to place the football club at the heart of the community. There's no question that I would imagine almost everybody here has travelled to the stadium tonight in a car, because it's cut off from the community. We're at the bottom of Bumpers Lane, in an industrial estate, very difficult to reach. It's probably the only place in Chester where you'll actually see our badge. You could walk through the town or walk through, Blacon, Hull, Vickers Cross, wherever it may be. You will not see any reference to Chester other than young people wearing a shirt, which there aren't enough of. This will put us right in the heart of the community. Okay, that would be really important. All kinds of benefits that come from that in the long term. So the site that we've identified is King George V playing fields in Blacon. Some of you may know it. It's a substantial site located on Blacon Avenue. It's just behind the police station and the custody suite and opposite the crematorium. So, yeah. I'll come on to that. There's an opportunity there. So King George V playing fields consist of two full-size grass pitches. I've played on those pitches for a number of years. I've seen them get progressively worse over that time, to the extent that one of those pitches is no longer usable, and the other pitch, which is barely usable, is no longer being used because no team is playing at that facility at the moment. The changing rooms that are on the site are like something you would find in a third world country, to be honest. No showers, no heating. It's really depressing to think that we expect footballers and particularly young people to go and access that facility. It's not fit for purpose, and that needs addressing. Adjoining King George Field is the Blacon Avenue site, which historically was, I think, the old High School, Bishop's High School site, and then West Cheshire College, and is now behind the police station. That site has a full-size rugby pitch on it, which is being used by the university at the moment. Collectively, that is a really substantial site, and crucially, it's in a fantastic location. So we're just on the edge of Blacon, just near Pargate Road, which is obviously one of the main thoroughfares into Chester. There's some improvements being done there at the roundabout related to the new Aldi, so it feels like a great location. Like all sites, it's got some flaws, and every site we've looked at has got those, but we think that this site has got the most potential and is the most realistic opportunity to develop what we're trying to develop. So we're going to go through some images of that site at the moment. Some of you may know this building. So this is the pavilion. That's not graffiti, that was planned artwork. Now that building has not been used for a number of years. In the past it's been used in various guises. So it was a youth club at one point. It was a school for alternative provision most recently. And as I say, there are some changing rooms in there, but they're not usable at the moment. You'll also see in the background that there is a children's play area, which was refurbished relatively recently. It's a popular site. The pathway leads from Poets Corner through to the bus stop, so it's regularly used. But in terms of the sports facilities, it's not being used at all at the moment. And for me, that's a massive shame, because this is something that historically was a really popular playing field. I think it's had cricket on it going back a long time, but obviously more recently football. So that's looking across the site. You can see that there are two full-size pitches on there. The pitch nearest to us is not fit for use. The pitch furthest away is usable, just about, depending on weather. Drainage is an issue on that site. The topography of the land is an issue. And that's really come about through a lack of maintenance and a lack of investment in the site, which is reflected at playing fields across Chester, across Cheshire West, to be honest, across the whole country. The building you can see there is the Chester Police Headquarters as well. So what we are proposing is to develop that site to create the King George V Sports Hub. We think that that name is really important. So King George V playing fields has been part of the Blacon community for a long time. It's also a fields in trust, so that is a protected piece of land that should be used by the community for recreational and sporting purposes. At the moment that's not happening because of the condition of that site. What we think we can do is transform that, breathe new life into the site and get people using it again for the purpose that it was first established for. So we would like to create a new full-size 3G pitch that can host both football and rugby. The reason for the rugby involvement is that we, as I said earlier, we want to create a multi-sport facility. There is a rugby pitch on there at the moment that is used by the university, so we intend to ensure that that can continue. There would be 2 full-size grass pitches. They would be retained from the existing layout, improved with new drainage. They will obviously be marked for 11v11 football, but they will also facilitate smaller sided football, and that's true of the 3G pitch as well. So for those who've got children who play football, you'll know that you go 5v5, 7v7, 9v9, or to 11v11. We're proposing that there would be a new clubhouse building that would contain changing rooms, an office, what we're calling a multifunctional community space, which sounds extremely grand, but in effect is a flexible room that can be subdivided for meetings, functions, social events, and during the day can be used as an additional classroom for the post-16 education provision. There would also be a kitchen and bar and store in that building. The existing pavilion, which is obviously a prominent building in Blacon, we're proposing that we would retain that building and refurbish it to provide modern changing rooms, a classroom for the education programme, an office and a kitchen. And crucially, there will be access to that site would be improved, and we will provide additional car parking to allow for the increased use. The proposal is that the council will retain ownership of that site, so the council own the freehold on both of those sites at the moment. They would continue to do that. The community trust would take a lease on those sites and operate them as a sports facility for the benefit of the community. The scheme that we're proposing has been costed at £1.6 million. That will be largely funded through a contribution from the council, national and governing body grants, Section 106 contribution, and I'll just say on that that that's connected to the Clifton Drive development, which I think some of you will know has been quite controversial, and the work that the Chester and Wirral Football League did in ensuring that there were some benefits to come from the loss of those pitches has been outstanding. So there is a Section 106 contribution, which is a planning agreement that the developer has to make a contribution to this scheme, and also donors. So this is the new master plan, which has been developed by the Frank Whittle Partnership, who are some architects based in Preston. So hopefully this will correspond to the Google Maps image that you saw earlier. 2 grass pitches retained, the existing refurbished changing rooms would be there, the play area would be retained as well, and that would remain an integral part of the site. On the other side of the site, you can see there's a full-size floodlit rugby league and football pitch, a new clubhouse and changing rooms, 7-a-side grass training pitches, new access with car parking. We're really excited by that because that delivers everything that we set out in the vision earlier. That's got the potential to be a fantastic facility for community sport in Chester. It will address a lot of the challenges that local clubs face. And that's why we want to present this tonight, and hopefully you'll all get behind it as we continue to talk about it. Again, this is an artist's impression of the site that would show the scale of the 3G pitch and the proposed building. What I would say is that these are concepts, and as we go to public consultation, the final design will be shaped by feedback from residents, the wider public, clubs, potential users of the site. Hopefully you agree that that looks fantastic. Really exciting for us to see our vision on the screen there. and that is an artist's impression of the clubhouse. The clubhouse will depend again on how we progress through the public consultation, what level of interest there is in using that facility. From the feedback we've had so far, there is a lack of good quality community facilities in the Blacon area, and we think that there's a real opportunity to address that here. It may be that that is more of a longer term aspiration, and our initial focus will be more on the sports facilities, but it's certainly something that we'd like to aspire for. What I'm going to do now is ask a couple of people to talk about their involvement in the project today, what they think it would mean for the community, what they think it would mean for us as a football club as a whole. So the first person I'd like to ask to come up is Carol Garn, who's a Blacon councillor. Carol?
Thanks very much. From a Blacon perspective, I think everybody would recognise, certainly everybody that I know of in Blacon would definitely recognise that this is great for the community. Our young people in Blacon need the access to sports facilities like this, and I think the fact that this is also creating a social hub for football supporters, for sport in general, will certainly add to the Blacon community. But it's not just about Blacon, this goes beyond Blacon's boundaries, and this is across Chester as well, who are going to benefit from the facility here at the club. And as Jim said, it really is going to promote your football club, and it's going to make it our football club, because, you know, we'll be at the point where you just won't be able to have a room big enough for the supporters of this club. And so I think as we go on, I think we're really going to achieve a lot working together. I mean, I will say myself that I will certainly be supporting you and making sure that we can fundraise and we can complete this dream. I mean, we're a good way there, because I know that the council and the other donors have put a substantial sum in, and as far as the council's concerned, this is a really important site, and it's part of wider provision for football across the borough itself. So I absolutely welcome this, and this is just great for our young people, and we'll make it sustainable. And very well done to Jim and the whole team here. Thank you very much.
The next person I'd like to ask to come up is Paul Foster, who represents Chester Gladiators. As I said, Chester Gladiators are the proposed rugby partner in the scheme, and Paul will tell you a little bit about the Gladiators as a club and where they are and what their aspirations are for the future.
Cheers, Jim. So, those who don't know about Chester Gladiators, rugby league is quite a minority sport, but we've been around for 10 years. We founded in 2008, and we've now got 4 junior teams, 3 open age, we've got veterans. We really want to grow as part of the community of Chester. And our aspirations when we set out was to provide community rugby opportunities. Not just rugby union, but rugby league, and give kids and that inclusive club development, and everything is about letting them have fun, creating bonds that you get for life. I've been lucky enough to play the sport since I was 8. I played Sunday League football, I played on the pitches that Jim's mentioned years ago as well, and I think this sort of facility gives us that hub, gives us a base to help grow the club and grow the partnerships that help sport and help young kids. There's not enough opportunities for them to play sport in good facilities, and the cost prohibits what you can do and what you want to achieve. We keep everything as a minimal cost for all of our players, all of our members. We try to make it as low cost as possible. And working in partnerships with these and this sort of facility helps us grow, helps us get kids involved in sport, which is better for everybody in the whole community. So yeah, I've seen some of this and I'm super excited about it. You know, it is a really great opportunity for football and rugby to work together, because sport's sport, and if kids are active, then everybody should be happy about that. So yeah. And finally, I'm just going to ask Callum to say a few words.
a few words. On football benefits, because ultimately that's really important. We're not deluded or anything like that. We know that without the football club, the community trust wouldn't exist, and we couldn't do the work we do in the community. But what I also know is that the more successful the football club is on the pitch, it makes my life a lot easier when I'm trying to go into schools and try and engage children, and they can come and watch a team that can win a few games and not get relegated. I think they've started to turn that around this year, and well, maybe. But Callum's work in terms of bringing through young players is really important, and that again is going to be a key part of the site. So, Callum.
Yeah, so it was to look at it from the football club's point of view. So the comments I'm going to make are representative of the football club from the football department. So I've tried to detach myself as a supporter because, as Paul says, excitement is the word, and artist impressions and securing the site. It was to address what would probably be the first thing raised at the Q&A, which, looking around the room, I see people from external sports clubs, but predominantly City Fans United members and supporters of Chester Football Club, who are obviously, this is going to be at the heart of what we do. So, speaking on behalf of the football department, I like that phrase. I don't actually think we have one, but it sounded like the right thing to say. Ultimately, this football club has to aspire to full-time football. Otherwise, I'll be really honest, I'm wasting my time, because we have a full-time under-18 group that currently progress to part-time football. And ultimately, this football club, historically, is a football league club. And it's something that I'll come on to, regardless of we are where we are. That is a reality as to the size of this football club. The amount of people in the room to discuss a community sports facility reflects the sheer size of this club. And ultimately, the ambition has to be at some point, and when it is the right time, to return to full-time football. You can't do that without a home. Since the football club reformed, we have been homeless. Yes, there is a stadium. If you were to remove the academy's base here during the day and the community trust staff, this ground is empty by the ticket office volunteers. All the outstanding work that Jimmy Soul and the maintenance staff do around the ground, nothing goes on here. There isn't a home, there is not a hub, for want of a better word, for this football club, and that has always, since the club reformed, been a requirement. So the benefits to the first team are as glaringly obvious as they appear on the screen. It would give the opportunity, as and when required, to return to full-time football. And by the way, from someone that's been in it since the beginning of time, in terms of the football setup, I've worked under umpteen managers and even more chairmen. In terms of the way it actually looks, there's never been a home. We've begged, stolen and borrowed facilities. When we went full-time, I don't know about anyone else, 3 mornings a week is not full-time football. I know the hours that, certainly looking around the people that I know, I think the groundsmen agree with me about what full-time actually looks like. It's the ability to move to that model, like I say, as and when required, and we've never been there, regardless of what you might have read. And I don't want to get too wrapped up in that, but it obviously opens up the flexibility on training models, but there's a £5 fee for anyone that uses the word hybrid this evening that was agreed on entry, because we aren't going to sort of get wrapped up in that. So there'll obviously be questions about what it looks like for the first team, but it is as obvious as you might think. But at the moment there isn't that requirement. What it wouldn't be, and Jim might sort of correct me, is a training base for the first team during the evenings, because during peak time this is a community facility, and that I think needs to be really, really clear for everyone. So I then come at it, before I sort of mention being a supporter, from an academy point of view, and there is an ignorance as to what that actually looks like. A, because of the word academy, and B, from a lack of knowledge and understanding as to what it looked like. It looks like I turn up every now and again asking for money to do this, that or the other. You see a couple of players sort of roll up and play in the first team every now and again, or the boys that we've moved on. There's over 120 players registered with us from the age of 8 up, not just the 2 or 3 a season that you get to see out there. We're a charter standard football club. We should be shouting that from the rooftops. We have to do various annual health checks, surprisingly come about once a year, and you have to confirm your status and meet certain requirements. We've worked hard to put ourselves in a position where, from under 8s right the way through, you have qualified coaches, you have appropriate coaches in terms of safeguarding, we have a welfare officer, we have a code of conduct. We are a football club, and people lose sight of that. That charter standard football club from under 9 to under 18, and we're not alone in this, by the way, are homeless. There's a number of clubs. Chester is an alarming area for that, where the amount of clubs are homeless, and it's something I've been discussing sort of earlier on this evening. However, from our point of view and in our interests, they are currently spread at sites at Criselton High School, at the Cheshire Sports Club, the old county officers in Old Money, at the UCEA, which has now been renamed, hasn't it, as an Ellesmere Port College, the Ellesmere Port Sports Village, the Garrison. The under-18s train at Chester University during the day as part of a deal that was previously the first team. That means I have to coach the university team for 4 hours a week. We are stretched all over the place in our provision of what we would like to think is a high quality football programme across both Chester and beyond. There is a need for those players to be housed. So then we referenced before the expansion of the BTEC programme, and that's something that I think Jim will cover in more detail. That is another need for a facility in Chester. But for us, scholars are ultimately, ideally, hopefully, however you want to phrase it, the future footballers of this club. That is the ideal. That's certainly why I agreed to do this job all those years ago, is because I believed that that was going to be the direction we were going in. So what does their day look like? We have a newly built classroom that we received some funding for on the far side of the room. We train at the university whenever we can sort of get our hands on it. We have nowhere to complete pre-season training. Team meetings are held in the bar, and I want to offer a clarity that that's not how it sounds. If that could be edited out for minutes. Chester youth do not hold their team meetings in bars very often. Simply put, there is no base to conduct the work that we do. We spend around, well, I'm probably allowed to reveal the figures, aren't I? We spend £9,900 on transport to and from training a year and to fixtures for one team. That's an outstanding amount of money. That's what you could do with that money. It is unbelievable if you're able to invest that, like you say, in a facility. So for us, from where we look at it, there is a real requirement to A, provide pitches for the work that we do, but B, provide a home. Football's changing, isn't it? I think it's something that Dave Powell sort of puts out there about the changing dynamic of football. So, ironically, the big clubs that you would say in the Conference North, traditionally the ex-league clubs, your Chesters, your Stockport counties, the model in football is changing, and you see what AFC Fylde do, what Salford City do. That's a very, very different model. We're competing in terms of recruitment for players, both at first team level and at youth level, in a very, very different football environment, and it's getting harder every year. So my role this time of year in terms of under-16s involves competing for a number of players for their signature for a 2-year scholarship with generally Tranmere Rovers, Fylde, Salford City, and obviously them down the road, but we don't talk about that. Simply put, why would you want to sign for each football club? The biggest sell here is that there's a pathway through to first team football. It's that simple. We've been able to boast that for a number of years, and that appeals quite clearly to a certain type of individual, both as a player and as a parent. But what some of these clubs are doing is impressive. The facility at AFC Fylde is as good as anything I've seen at this level of football and beyond. Both the stadium, the training facilities, and all that comes with that. That's desirable for a lot of people. What Salford have done in establishing the Peninsula Stadium, what they're able to boast at, it's probably more attractive to sign for a football club when Gary Neville rings you up. I don't know why. He must have a better sales pitch than me. Apparently David Beckham's the owner here. Well, you know what I mean? It's a slightly different pitch, isn't it, in terms of the way you go about your business. In order to compete with these clubs, we have to have something. Because at the moment, we are a homeless football club based at the bottom of an industrial estate. Something Jim said, and I'll sort of finish with that, really resonates with me both as a supporter and in the role that I do about the badge. Something that one of my mentors, football-wise, used to tell me about trialists. He used to say, get a badge on them, get a shirt on them. Very, very early, he said, don't ever have them come to training and not wear the badge because they want to belong to something. Well, actually, outside of this ground, Chester Football Club doesn't exist anywhere apart from various fans forums, a few tweets, but in the city centre there's no presence, there isn't a thriving club shop. We are based at the bottom of an industrial estate. What do our players, our members, our staff, where do they belong other than here? And I think the opportunity to have something with the football club's badge on in partnership with the Community Trust, because Jim says something really poignant, that the two go hand in hand and don't thrive without one another, and that needs to be really, really clear. And if that isn't clear, please familiarise yourselves on the work that goes on both by each group and together. But in terms of identity, the opportunity to have a base, have a home for our players, our staff, everything shouldn't be sniffed at. Our desire to have an opportunity to create opportunities for the community is massive, and is something that we haven't really done since the club reformed. It was an ambition. I feel like I've seen loads of things here now, and I mean the good, the bad, the ugly, the bad, the ugly and the bad, and some good, and it's been a challenge. One thing that sort of inspires me with this project is it's something to get behind, and maybe we, and I'm talking as a supporter, haven't had that for a very long time. All that matters for a football club, I totally agree, is what goes out on the pitch. Totally agree with that, and it's something I've endorsed from day one. That actually, without that, there isn't a football club, regardless of how strong your youth section is or how strong your community programme is. But actually, to improve things out on that pitch and get it right, a lot more goes into that off the pitch. This is an opportunity that is presented in front of all of us, in front of the community, in front of the trust, the club, and is something to finally get behind. I'm going to be fiercely passionate about it, both as the academy manager and as a supporter. It is facilitated and designed by Chester people. It's a phrase that you'll hear me use a lot, Chester people with the football club right at the heart. Let's not miss this opportunity to do something that will put this football club back where it belongs, and I mean that as a phrase, both out on the pitch and as a club in the community, because this football club deserves a home, an identity, and it will not happen without the support of the community, but primarily its supporters and members who have, let's be honest, pulled rabbits out of hats and created miracles for this football club before. This isn't a miracle or a dream, it's an ambition that can be realised quickly enough with the right level of support. Let's not miss that opportunity, both for the players, the members, but for the club itself, and that's my take on it.
Hopefully that's given you a bit of insight and understanding into the benefits this scheme can deliver, the benefits for the football club, the benefits for the community work that we do, the benefits for grassroots sport in Chester, and the benefits for the community in Blacon and the wider community of Chester. So where do we go now? Where are we at? We are really confident, and I use that word carefully, that this scheme is deliverable. We've deliberately waited until we feel confident to bring it to our members and the wider public. I've been following Chester a long time. I've seen a lot of schemes, I've seen a lot of artist impressions, and I've seen them fall by the wayside. We didn't want to do that. We didn't want to get people too excited too early. We feel like we're now in a position to be able to share this with you as owners and supporters and as I say, the wider public. But let's not kid ourselves that there's not a lot of hard work still to do. It is a very, very ambitious scheme. 1.6 million is a lot of money. As I say, we're fortunate that the majority of that has either been approved already or is in the process of being secured from local authority, grants and donors. But there is a gap. There is a gap that we need to fill. So the next steps for us, we need your help. And I don't just address that to the room, I address that to anybody who's at home, following this on the stream or following it on social media. It's going to need everybody to get behind this if we're going to make it happen. For me, it feels like it's within reach, and I would be gutted if we miss this opportunity. Okay, I would be absolutely gutted, because I don't think it will come round again. To have a council that's willing to invest the level of funding it is in this scheme is bucking the trend. Okay, it is absolutely bucking the trend across the country. They want the football club to succeed. They are our landlord, they own this stadium. We have a really good relationship with them. They helped us in 2010 when we started the club, and they are helping us again now. We seized that opportunity in 2010, and look where that's taken us. We can do that again now and take us back to the level where we all want to be. So the target that we need to raise is £300,000. That's a huge amount of money for us as a football club. Now we have a strategy of how we believe we can raise that, okay, and that is broken down through donations, so we will need people to put their hands in their pockets and give us whatever they can afford, and every penny will genuinely count. It will get us closer to that target. There will be fundraising events and activities that will be announced in the coming weeks. So there will be a summer raffle with all funds going exclusively to this project. So if you can go take some tickets into work, take some tickets to family, friends, and get them to buy a ticket, that would be fantastic. Every penny that we can bring in through that raffle will go to this project. We are hoping that there will be a designated pre-season friendly at home, that with all funds from that game again going to this project. We're also hoping that there will be another Legends/Celebrity fundraising match in probably September time, again with all funds going to this project. So we're going to have to be creative. It's going to be a lot of work, and we're going to need help to do that. So it is a significant amount of money, but when we talk about a £1.6 million scheme, and we've got to put in 300,000, and 1.3 million is coming from other parties and other people. For me, as a football club, that's not an opportunity that will come along again. Okay, and for the community of Chester, that's probably not an opportunity that's going to come along for a long, long time. So how can you donate? You can donate online at Just Giving. One of the benefits of the Community Trust being a charity is that you can also gift aid your donations if you're a taxpayer. So the 25% extra, wherever you can give, you can get 25% extra, which we can reclaim. So if you can donate anything, and that starts tonight by the way, the bucket's on the table and not just there for show. If you have any loose change and you want to throw it in, please do. Okay, this is going to be a sustained campaign, and we will need everybody to help with whatever you can afford. Every penny will genuinely count. You can volunteer, and this is really important. We're a community club. I represent the Community Trust. We want to be in the community. You're probably sick of hearing that word. But this is a community project. So if you have time, if you have skills, if you have energy, enthusiasm, know-how, experience, you think will help with this project, we want to hear from you. That could be painting the changing rooms, that could be cutting some of the grass, doing some weeding at the site, helping create new pathways. It could be anything. We need your help. If we can mobilise the wider community in a volunteering project, that could potentially reduce the cost of the project, and could make it more deliverable more quickly. So if you think that applies to you and you would like to get involved, then please get in touch. And we need people to work with us. This is a start. There's a long road ahead, and after this evening we'll be going to public consultation, engaging with local residents, engaging with local community groups, engaging with football clubs, football leagues, and trying to get this partnership as strong as possible. If this is going to work in both the short term and the long term, we need everybody pushing in the same direction. We need strong partnerships, and we need a lot of those partnerships. It also applies to local businesses. If we can get some community-orientated businesses behind this scheme, that could allow us to move things on a lot quicker. There are commercial opportunities in this scheme that exist, and hopefully we can engage some businesses in that, and that will get us much closer to that £300,000 target. So tonight we are launching a new website specifically for this project. That will be the port of call for anybody who wants to know more about it. There will be artist impressions, an outline of the scheme on there. There'll also be a frequently asked questions. There'll also be an opportunity to donate through that website. And over the coming weeks and months, as we're able to update things and share positive news on the scheme, we'll post it on that website first and foremost. So the new website address is www.kgvsportshub.co.uk. So that will be live this evening. There's the Just Giving page again, that will be live this evening. You can just search Chester FC Just Giving, and that'll take you to it. As I say, you can donate through that page really quickly, really easily, and if you're a UK taxpayer, we can reclaim another 25%. And if you would like to get involved in any capacity, or you've got any ideas about how you might be able to help or play a part in this project, that's our email address, really easy, community@chesterfc.com. Please get in touch. We need people to help us make this happen. It's a fantastic opportunity, but we've got to grasp it together. Now, what I'd like to do now is open it to questions and answers. I'm sure there are lots of questions. I'll quite happily try and answer as many as I can, but we've got Callum here from a football perspective. Mike and Mike are trustees of the Community Trust. Mike is also on the board of the football club. We also have Nick and Michael at the back of the room, who are from the architects, so if there's any questions around the design of the scheme, I'll hand it over to them. So if you've got any questions, please put your hand up and we'll do our best to answer for you. Yes?
Jim, do you think this is going to take money away from the football club when we're already struggling?
That's a good question, and that's something that we're really conscious of. So the question was, do I think this is going to take money away from the football club when the football club is already struggling? We have been really clear that what we are going to try and do is additional fundraising. So what we don't want to do is divert funds from one area to another, and in solving one problem, we create another problem. So we've already engaged with the fundraising working group to check, are they planning to do a summer raffle? Because if they are, we wouldn't do one, because we're not going to do that.
Yeah, but it's more than that, isn't it? We rent our pitch out during close season,
Yeah.
but then we could lose that trade. We rent this room out and the one upstairs. If you don't get everything you want, we could lose that trade as well.
Yeah, I don't think it would
And
impact
we are
on...
short of money.
Yeah, I don't think it would impact on the stadium rental. I think what we're proposing is a completely different facility. There's something really special about playing on the stadium, and that's why people hire the stadium and pay for that privilege. Our pitches will be in use every night of the week, Saturday and Sunday. It will be somewhere where mums and dads are probably sick of taking their children because they'll be training 2 nights a week, playing on a weekend. So it'll be a facility that becomes part of their everyday routine, whereas the stadium is something different.
Which is what we wanted this stadium to become, really.
Yeah, I mean,
the ideal thing would be for us to have a 3G pitch and for this stadium to become the hub. So, I mean, and people have only got a finite amount of money to donate. And if they're donating it to you, they're not doing, and we are never going to become full-time unless we generate more money. This is a fact.
I completely agree with that point. This is an incredible opportunity for the football club as a whole. So we spend, as a football club, about £50,000 a year hiring external facilities.
So we're going to get them free, aren't we?
No, but we will retain...
So we still have to hire them. I see.
But instead of hiring those facilities from third-party organisations or providers, where we don't see that money again, this money we've retained in the business, the wider business, and we can reinvest that in a facility to create more income generation opportunities.
At this site, at Chester Football Club, I am bothered that we're not going to get anything out of this. You're asking us to fundraise an awful lot of money, but what is the club going to get out of it?
So the benefits to the club in terms of a full-time model, as Callum said, are obvious.
We're never going to get to full-time unless we generate more money.
Okay, in terms of income generating opportunities, Callum, do you want to pick up on the BTEC programme?
Yeah. So, in our current model, as you know sort of some of the figures involved.
I do.
What we are spending on pitches externally.
Yeah, but we're still going to have to spend that, Carol.
What we are spending on pitches externally dwarfs anything that we would be spending on this facility in question. It's a Football Foundation funded facility. There is an agreed price structure which isn't in place at the Chester County offices and isn't in place at the UCA and Ellesmere Port. So as a starting point from what we spend on pitches from an academy point of view, that is phenomenal. You then reference the BTEC and the opportunity. One thing that I totally agree with is the football club will not return full time until it generates more money. And surely I think everyone from a football club point of view, it will entirely agree. This is an opportunity to generate income. And where you say about, and that's an opinion we can disagree, but where you talk about the BTEC, we're training for free at Chester University at present. So there's no expenditure for training for the under-18s, just an expenditure of my time, me going out of my way and going, well, I'll coach the university team. Well, hang on, Chester University aren't getting a penny either, so what happens when someone's willing to come and pay for a facility? What are they going to do then? So once again, the ability to have a home allows you to expand your income generation. So you'll know the figures involved that the football club receive for the BTEC programme is in excess of £30,000 a year. The ability to expand that to potentially double that is unbelievable. And you know how the relationship works between the trust and the football club.
Yes, but the youth is never going to expand and do any better unless the club does.
We weren't talking about the youth.
The club is starting. You know, the club has got to do better before everything else can do better.
I entirely agree, but I wasn't talking exclusively about the youth. I was talking about the provision of a BTEC education programme, which is a really successful model at Hyde United, really successful model where we've been today at Tranmere Rovers, but you cannot do that without a base and a facility. The opportunity to generate income through an education provision, which, as referenced, there is none in Chester, not minimal, there is zero for post-16. The opportunity, which I totally agree with you, to generate income, you can't do that without a base. We can't do that on the existing facilities. I've seen loads said about the investment of infrastructure, which is another word that has just become a word and a token word. Simply put, infrastructure is people and facilities, and without infrastructure, no money will be generated. I think what is an entire concern that Jim has addressed is the potential to divert funds away from the football club, and I think the fundraising strategy has to have that at its heart, that it will avoid that entirely.
Right, I'll put it this way. You're expecting us to fundraise 300,000 and Stuart is giving 200,000. That's $500,000. Stuart is going to invest 1 point whatever million in this football club. If we invested it all in this football club, you could have all the facilities down here and we would make money out of it.
What facility? In an ideal principle, I agree in terms of an investment into facilities here, but I wouldn't want to speak for Stuart Murphy, but perhaps other people could. I think his investment here is entirely separate to the funding that he's making available for the King George V site. What there isn't on this stretch of land is the means to develop any of the facilities to generate income in this model, if you like, in terms of the provision of pitches. In simple terms, I remember us laughing about it. There used to be the talk about behind the Harry McNally Terrace, a full-size 4G pitch. We're at least 30 metres short. I've paced it out, for want of a better phrase. There is not the opportunity to develop.
There are lots of football clubs at our level that have their main pitch as a 3G or 4G pitch and make money from it.
Yes, I don't disagree. In terms of our level, that have done it really successfully again, Hyde United. But in order to do that and meet the business plan, there has to be a relevant amount of activities. So I know the guys at Hyde United really well, and I would advise that they wouldn't do that if they didn't have between 80 and 100 students on site on a daily basis, because they are a part-time football club. In terms of the Conference North, artificial pitches, minimal, and artificial pitches in the North West in the National League, minimal. It's very much, I know this sounds an awful stereotype, but it's been a more southern-based exercise. And you know what will be the common denominator in a lot of those facilities? They have really strong links with education programmes. Maidstone United, for a start, will sort of post stuff like that.
You're giving out names that we know nothing about, to be honest. You're just throwing out names there that we know nothing about. All I know is you're asking us to help raise 300,000. We struggled to raise 100,000 and the fans did absolutely wonderfully. There is no spare money.
But we're not asking the fans to raise £300,000. The target is £300,000. Okay. There are different elements to how we believe we can reach that target. The commercial element is really, really important. News. Yeah, news. So yeah, we are not just asking you as supporters and owners. This is a message to the community. The community needs better facilities.
It's wonderful facilities for the community.
Yeah.
But to be honest, my first priority is Chester Football Club.
As is mine, because without Chester Football Club, I haven't got a job. I need Chester Football Club to be really successful, and I want it to, because first and foremost, I'm a supporter, but the model of the football club is not working. There is a reason we cannot compete in the National League under the current model.
So, another thing is, why have we got somebody doing the job of saying that they're here to represent Chester Football Club, who is not a director of the board?
I think I made the comment I was representing the Chester Football Club with regards to the football department, was the exact phrase that I used.
If I can just...
The football, okay.
Given that I'm here,
the Community Trust has worked really closely with the board of City Fans United on this scheme. We presented to the board at their most recent meeting. They gave us their full backing. We then proposed that we had this meeting to share it with members and the wider public. They gave it their full backing. They even changed tomorrow's CFU meeting to tonight to ensure that we had maximum attendance, which is great to see. We have Mike Day sitting on the top table, who is a director of the football club, City Fans United, and also the Community Trust. This will have huge benefits for the football club. And I'm quite happy to pick that up with you offline and run through what those benefits will be and how that will be delivered. We're not reinventing the wheel. When Callum throws those names out, he's not plucking clubs at random. They are clubs that Callum is aware of their programme. There are clubs that we have visited and seen firsthand the work they do and their model. We're not reinventing the wheel. We can learn from others to make what we do more successful. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. I've got a question, but there's a point that I'd like to make. I'm not a sports fan, so I might just I've never been to this building before. I'm probably never will come again, but I will go to this if it's built. That's the point. If you want to grow, you need engagement from first of all. Now, about finances, you've got your existing model at the moment of what you do with it. If you had this, how much would you save per annum, do you know? Or doing it this way rather than what you're doing now? That would be reinvested in the
So, of that £50,000 that we spend on external facilities at the moment, upwards of 80% of that spend could be consolidated into this facility. Now, that is money that is hemorrhaging out of the club to third parties, whether they be facility providers, schools, leisure centres. When I say the club, I mean the first team, the women's team, the academy, the community trust. We all have the name Chester FC, we all have that badge. It's going to take a concerted effort between everybody working together to get the product on the pitch on a Saturday afternoon to be better and more successful.
More clear question. If you have this, potentially how much new money could be brought in for?
So there are different elements to that. So the first element is the 3G pitch. So the 3G pitch has the potential to generate upwards of £125,000 a year in income. Now there are obviously costs that need to come out of that in terms of maintenance and staffing. However, the surplus, based on the business plan that we're working through at the moment, would be in the region of £60,000 a year. So that is money that we as a community trust, as the operator, can reinvest in the site to make it better for the community, and can reinvest in our work in schools and in the community settings to get more people engaged in the football club, to try and encourage more children to come and watch the games like we did with the Leamington match, and hopefully get the next generation of supporters. It's not a quick fix. It's not a sticking plaster that you can put over some of the challenges we've got as a football club. What it is a long-term solution to some of the weaknesses of the current model. Any more questions? Yeah.
Just to address, just saying there, I think it's worth making mention that we all have this vision that Callum touched on it before in terms of we throw out AFC file because they're a shining example and they're relatively close and everyone matches the bar at the stadium, looks great. But it seems to be this misconception that these clubs survive on, of course they have capital investment which brings it to a certain point, but they get to that point and then they continue because of the way they operate. I mean, Boreham Wood, we laugh and talk about the fact they get 300 people going to the gate. 8 of their first team squad have their income subsidised by the work of doing their own element of trust. Something that could actually happen here. So it's money which Jim says you are keeping within the business. You're paying for goods and services which can actually aid the business going forward.
Yeah, well, I want to mind informed, but the model that we've used since the Second World War has failed at this point, hasn't it? Let's face it. We've tried doing things in a certain way. The football club in Chester's never had decent support since the Second World War. You can look at the statistics and there's a show. We had a little bit of success in the 70s and 80s, and that was done by selling the training ground. Any facility that we had some control over was sold to finance that. So it's been a long, long period, probably 18 years of failure. We need a different business model. I understand where Brad was coming from, and there was always a danger of that. But as we do things differently, and a bit like Dave says, people laugh at Boreham Wood, they were a 600-person academy of BTECs. They generate an enormous amount of money for the football club. They survive in the Conference National because of that facility.
That's precisely the point, though, Mummy. They generate a lot of money for the club. Now,
yeah, but they
that's where this could be because of the charitable area of the community trust, the £60,000 that was referring to and mentioned to you, isn't going to go blank. And coming back to Barbara's point there, you know, she's worried that the same people who've been milked to death already are going to be asked again for another 300,000. But it isn't the club that's going to get it, it's going to be the community trust project. Is that right?
The community trust will be the operator of the site.
Right.
We can, and we do, purchase goods and services from the football club that support our work. Okay, and that's very broad, but there are lots of ways we can do that.
But it's the revenue being brought in, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's where the boredom was.
So if we
David made the point that Boreham would have got 8 players who were paid to be coaches.
So say they get £400 a week coming throughout the football club's budget, the rest of that is subsidised by the work they actually do to the community trust. So in that essence,
service.
Is that how you see?
Pete, we do that already.
Right.
Jay Noble, George McCready, two
Gary
players.
Roberts paid.
Gary Roberts has done it. Sam Hughes,
That makes
Tom
it clear now,
Crawford.
that the article
So
tells something
we
back.
are. There is a model that we're already trying to implement. We are being hamstrung because so much of our income is going out of the door on facilities. With our own facility, I would absolutely. I would give Kane Noble a job tomorrow. He is outstanding as an ambassador for our football club. A local lad from Leitch who's come through the academy, now getting into the first team. When he goes into a school and puts on a session, he engages those children. They want to come and see him play on a Saturday. Gary Roberts, the same. Yeah, a local lad from Blacon. When he goes and delivers a session, those kids want to come and see him play. They are role models. There is a model there that we can replicate, and that's just one example.
So are you saying that, for the benefit of anybody who doubts,
Yeah.
that some of the benefits in terms of income that this project would eventually, when it's up and running, can then be utilised to assist the club in the way that you say, by paying for players for their services to the community?
It's already happening. It's already happening.
We actually got an award for doing it. We've got £5,000.
Evan Horwood won an award for his work with the trust. So that model is already in place. There is huge potential in that model. The BTEC programme is already in place. There is huge potential in that model. So there are lots of opportunities that we can explore and maximise.
Jim,
Yeah.
it's also worth making the point, Sam, correct me if I'm wrong, that if the football club wanted to do this as Chester Football Club, you wouldn't have access to half the grants that you'd be able to do through the community trust. So we'd have to make a load more money on our own.
If I'm being blunt, we did pitch this to the football club at one point, and certain people, and the fact that a 3G pitch on the stadium would be the best idea. I'm being blunt about it. People don't want that. There's some people who don't want it to happen. No, but the same minutes fall down. So that would probably generate the most income for the football club, but there are people who don't want it to happen. So we tried for a long time to make that happen, and we've been blunt. So this is the second best option.
Absolutely, yeah, that's part of it. Absolutely, I completely agree. Yeah, the fan base. So the question was, would this scheme mean that we could give more tickets to children to come and watch the football club? So again, we do that at the moment. The Leamington game, there were 425 people in the South Stand. I think 65% were children who were offering tickets, 35% were mums and dads, aunties, uncles who were paying £10 to come in. There are probably of that 425, I would guess that probably 90% would have not come to that match without those incentives. So we need to recognise that we've got to do something to tempt people to the game. We have got an aging supporter base, I hate to break it to you. We have got a dwindling crowd. The crowd numbers are dropping, as people can see. We need to turn that around. Okay, we need to get more young people to get that bug of watching Chester FC that we all got at some point. You can probably remember when you got that, and and you start to get into that routine of going to games. You start to see the same people on a match day. But unless we get them down and get them hooked, that's never going to happen. It's only going to go one way. So absolutely, yeah, this scheme will allow us to do that. Yes, Les?
It's a long-term question, really. The pitch at Harrogate is a 3G, isn't it?
Yeah.
Harrogate win the playoffs. What happens?
Yeah.
They have to dig the pitch up.
Referring to what I said earlier, this is why the club don't want a 3G pitch, so...
Yeah. The discussions around a 3G pitch at the stadium have taken place. It seems to rear their head every 6 to 12 months because there are other clubs who've done that and are making a success of it. As Les rightly says, at the moment you cannot be promoted to the Football League with a 3G pitch. So Harrogate, potentially this season, Sutton United, last season were very close to being promoted and had made arrangements that they were going to have to rip up the pitch and replace it with a turf pitch. I get all the arguments on that, I can see both sides. I understand the traditionalists who believe that football should be played on grass. I also understand the business argument around the opportunity to utilise your facility more. I think it could be a tougher nut to crack than Brexit to try and get that through our supporter base. I think that's a really tough, long-term discussion that we might have to have as a football club. But we need to do something now. We need to do something now, and we've got an opportunity to do that. Mike?
Not to say this for the sake of the job, I couldn't give a month to what we play on. As long as we've got teams to support on Saturday. I don't like 3G pitches because we're not new to it, but again, it's nothing to do with the job, same as a fan. If you're going to consider that as a club, you put it to a vote, straight down the line, because that discussion went on behind my back last year, which did take place without me present. And the next thing I'm seeing plans of going here, stagecoach, we'll get the 3G pitch, and I'm the last one to be told. You know, I never get involved in anything. So if the CFU are thinking of going down the 3G route, you put it to a vote, straight down the line, and the club have got to decide what they want to do as a club going forward. Do they ever want that day, a special day of getting back to the Football League, or do we just tick along, making money in this division, or the league above, as a yo-yo club, hiring the pitch out every night here? You know, I wouldn't want to watch football on 3G on Saturday, I wouldn't. You know, okay for training, but what neutralists as a supporter here wants to watch, you know, on a 3G? We're useless on a 3G. And 80% of the players, they don't want to play on a 3G. Matthew Ward's got a 3G. There's also talking cancer in some of them pitches. Why do we want them out here? I don't want to see a cut of continental ties flying with the percentage. You know what I mean? Okay.
Yes.
Training shop. I presume there is a training problem where Friday training traffic can't keep pitch 100% all the time in pouring rains. You alluded to the fact that this wouldn't change the current setup part-time, that only when we went full-time this would be better because of the fact that people would be using that facility in the community.
Yeah, so the project will receive a substantial grant from the national governing bodies. There will be conditions attached to that grant that are tied to the sort of sport plans. So for football, that is community-based use. So evenings and weekends, which is peak time usage, those slots will be protected for community users. Okay, so the football club, who are regarded as a professional or an elite club, would not be eligible for that usage. As Callum alluded to earlier, if they move to the other model, I won't use that word, with a view to ultimately returning to full time, those hours would be off peak, so those pitches would be available.
So you do what's projected by the football club?
Yeah.
The other model?
Yeah.
And the big plus of this scheme is there's 2 grass pitches involved as well, so we've got complete control of that.
I'm not quite sure about the position of the other model with this scheme, because that changes quite a lot
Yes.
Remotely from the need for the football club to do something like this.
Yes.
Because for a substantial time that I can see, we stay with another model. Shorter time as possible.
Yeah.
It could be some time.
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, Colin.
Just, I know we're joking about the models that you use, and it almost to get this out there and then leave it there. I wouldn't want to speak for the first team managers because I'm not employed to do that, and ultimately they're both bigger than me, so I wouldn't. But my reading of it, when we talk about models as football supporters, and I put myself in that bracket, we can almost create something in our heads as to what models look like. So full-time football, I don't think it's full-time football, it's less than 12 hours a week. I see them come and I see them go. I think the importance when you talk about models, so the words are full-time, part-time and hybrid, right, that I've seen sort of bandied about all over social media and stuff. What they actually look like is probably very, very different, in no disrespect, to the people at the back of the room, to the front of the room, to the left and the right, because every football club is different, and generally at our level they are guided by managers. Above our level they're probably guided by sporting directors or technical directors. The reason the hybrid model is being referenced at the moment, to my understanding and the conversations that I've been privy to, is largely due to the flexibility into what it can provide. So where we want full-time players, and all it comes down to, by the way, is contact hours. Some of you were in the meeting at St Teresa's and I referenced that. Where I come from the academy point of view and support the point before about income generation, we received a significant amount of money for Sam Hughes and more money for Tom Crawford than people think. That's where I get quite frustrated about. We seem to sniff at amounts of money for players. Actually, we spend minimal amounts, if that I won't go into this evening, on the development of those players, and the profit and loss account reads really, really well, to say the least. So, simply put, if we persist in a solely part-time model, speaking exclusively in relation to the development of players, the transfer fees we can receive for them is vastly reduced. We've been fortunate in Sam's case that Leicester City wanted to do a deal and get it over the line. With Tom, there was a club that came to the table and the equation was right for everyone. If we were to have a boy go to tribunal that would come through our system, it would be a compensation package. That compensation is valued on a whole multitude of things. Firstly, the value to the football club. That is demonstrated in a number of ways. The amount of money they are paid, should they have received a contract offer, so the Ben Hennigan scenario that I'm sure you remember has been done to death, what was the value of that contract will demonstrate their value, and that is part and parcel. What will go alongside that is the appearances that a player makes for a football club. Ultimately, if they're valuable, they're desirable, they get thrown out of the pitch, don't they? But what then comes down to an under-23 player, which is where compensation comes in, it's training compensation, it's the time and thus money that you invested in them. And that I'm not talking exclusively about academy players. How many under-23s do we have in the first team squad? A vast amount, more than our managers get credit for in terms of that they've come from elsewhere. You take a Bradley Jackson, and the player of that ilk, if you like, that's come out of full-time football in the Football League and has then circulated again to come to us. If we were ever in a position to receive training compensation, part of the formula that dictates that package will be based on the amount of contact hours that we have had with him. The contact hours at the moment are 3 or 4 hours a week. That will have a bearing on the transfer fee. Please bear that in mind. So when you're talking about models, there are a million different reasons that relate to a football model. Some in the past have even related to players and where they live and so forth. That's been a criticism in the past in terms of where players are based. The reason hybrid, I always want to do this and then leave it there if that's all right. My understanding as someone that is by no means an expert, but I haven't met an expert in football yet. I really, everyone has an opinion and stuff, just mine, but the conversations I have had, the reason hybrid is desirable is the flexibility of the best part-time players, more contact time with as many players as possible that can commit to a certain amount of sessions, but also, and I won't speak for the managers, but I know this as coming out of their mouths, I think they've said it in here, the desire to develop players and improve those players that come through A, or our own system, B, that we pick up from elsewhere. The finances we could potentially receive for those players, which has been a significant income generator in recent seasons, will be dictated by the contact time. But people with visions of full-time football, that 9 to 5 and then come and clean the stadium and then work behind the bar, it doesn't happen. It really doesn't happen. In the same way, people think part-time football means they all go for a pint in the bar after training. No, it doesn't. I know part-time sides that train in the day. It's about what model suits the ambition of the football club, the aims of the football club, but largely the group of players that you've got. This facility opens up the opportunity to be flexible, where at the moment there isn't. You know, the groundsmen, we talk about it, don't we, training facilities. Well, I didn't want to say that. I was trying to put it a little bit more eloquent. At the moment, there aren't any facilities, and people that think, well, why aren't the first team training there? There is not an abundance of facilities available in Chester, I can assure you, and that is my background working at this club, seeing local football and working in a local high school. They are at a premium in terms of availability, and that is why there's a need and why the council and the Football Foundation are willing to invest in the area, because there is a grave, grave lack of facilities. So don't think that the first team are out training here because they can't train somewhere else. That part of the equation is what it is for now, but ultimately the development, that's the model of the football club changes from a football point of view. That will progress accordingly, is how I would read it. I hope that makes sense, if you understand where I'm coming from.
Can I just raise the point Callum made about the emptiness of this building and not having a home and what have you? I can't quite get my head round. It's going to even be more empty.
Possibly. But if we have a thriving facility,
the office and maybe a few people dotted around upstairs.
To be fair, that's what we've got now. To be honest.
You make a comment before about the income generation element of the facilities. The facilities here now. Stats just gone off, I think.
Turn him off.
Yeah, there's.
I probably don't need one, I'll be honest. I'm loud enough.
He's one of the other three.
I get told. Alright. I'm here on a daily basis, and Jim is, and we're the only member of staff that are anymore. People have lost sight of that. There aren't players coming and going during the day. From a football point of view, we're just part-time. There are the two of us. There isn't a general manager. Without a plea for, oh, well done us, no one's interested in that. We're both supporters, so I'm well versed on what goes on here in the day. The hiring of the facilities is minimal, and I'd be interested from the 1st of January to the 31st of December to write down how many times the facilities here are in use. If anything, having the scholars here in the day is preventative to that. It prevents that from happening, from the fact that they need a space. It's a requirement for an education programme. So I totally endorse the point about there being less people here. I'll be honest, during a previous regime, it was brilliant when players were here in the day. I know there's some volunteers in the room. There were some awkward bits with the Kath. Lunch wasn't always great. Mine was. Kath would make me spaghetti on toast, wasn't always difficult every day. Didn't like beans. It was brilliant in terms of the ticket office staff. There was some real interaction with the players, wasn't there?
It was great. It was just on the field that was gone wrong.
That is someone speaking that was important about the club.
Inside, absolutely brilliant.
And I know I see a lot of faces, the volunteers and stuff. There was a real feeling of being here. But it's largely not practical, is it? Let's be honest. There are challenges posed in terms of changing rooms, things ranging from changing rooms to showering. So yes, it will be empty. But maybe the stadium should be. Maybe the stadium. You talked before about the special moment of playing at the stadium. Maybe it will be. Come on, Baz.
We're relying now on people on cafeteria. Like last week, there's two people in their 80s, no disrespect, in their 80s we had the stadium in use Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They're in their 80s, they're coming here 2 or 3 hours of the day, rushing that tunnel out, rushing the changing rooms out to turn it round for the next night. You know, without them, like you say, there's a handful of people here every day. You can be waiting for a week.
But what's important is this doesn't become about all the issues that are there with the football club, which can be done to death and at times do, and that's, I know what the CFU funds are for, but actually this is about a facility and an opportunity that not everyone will support, and there'll be a whole wide array of opinions in the room. All that everyone can do is present their own viewpoint with whoever they represent, whatever they believe, and then that's that. So I get the point about what will happen to the stadium in the day. I think it probably opens up more possibilities for the stadium, but this was about an opportunity that has arisen through a lot of hard work from other people that the football club can benefit from in a multitude of ways, some of which can't be demonstrated this evening. That's just where it's at. But actually it's important this meeting, in my opinion, doesn't become about, well, the club don't do this. Otherwise, it totally loses its focus as about the launch or potential launch of an initiative to provide a facility.
Outside of what we see, we're all supporters. We come here years and years and years. Outside of us, to the city, we are a joke. We are an absolute joke. This facility in the heart of Blacon will introduce this football club to a whole generation of people who've never even heard of football club, wouldn't dream of coming down here, past the council tip, past a few car dealerships and coming and watch the game on a Saturday. This will change that. Is it going to change for next season? We're going to win the league and there's going to be 5,000 people there? Probably not, no. But will this be something in 5 or 6 years you look at and think, you know what, you start to see the wheels in motion here. I worry that we don't be kind of myopic about this and think that this is, the first team is king, but I just don't want this to become a, thinking we're going to see results next season, because we're not. This is about reintroducing the city to its football club, because as I said, it thinks we're a joke.
I wouldn't go as far as David, but I think the engagement...
I don't know. I'm telling you now, Mike, somebody works for the Chester Chronicle.
As you know, I don't live in the city, but as you know, but I've been a lifelong supporter, but so I'm a bit loath to say that. But what I would say for definite is an awful lot of supporters of this football club do not live in Chester. The amount of people who support the club who live in Chester, I think, is very, very small. And it's quite sad that there's a lack of engagement between this football club historically. We're not talking about recent years, Stephen Ball. We're talking about 80, 90 years probably. Because people around Chester have never got behind the football club since the Second World War. You can look at the stats to show that. And we've got an opportunity to change that. And if we can pass them on that, then I think we'll do a sad day. Greater engagement with the city and the community is the only way forward. It's the only way you get a stronger fan base, and you don't end up with 900 like Barnet or 700 like we had against Bromley. Because you can't survive as a football club like that. You've got to have 2,500 people. And the way to do that is to engage with the community of Chester and to get people interested in the football club. And I think it's just one of the great ways of doing it. We could put a 3G on the stadium, but there's downsides to that. And I hear the arguments about VAR for the benefits of the football club. We can have it both ways. You know, we either back this scheme or we put somebody else.
Can I just pick up on your positive note? Can I just pick up on your positive note from a community group, which I represent, and that's why I'm here tonight? That listening to yourself, Jim, listening to Callum, listening to the gentleman from Chester Gladiators, how passionate you are about this facility and what it can bring to Chester and the community. Okay, that is why we're here. Okay. I'm not an investor in your group, I'm not on your blueprint, but I can sit here tonight and I can feel your passion. Okay, and as a community group based in Chester, it's got to benefit all of the community, which is what you're saying it's going to do, and you're making that promise and it's got to deliver, because there's a lot of people in Chester who would object if it's not going to do that. This site, from what I understand, is not fit for the purpose you want that facility to be. Okay, so you need to move on from that, because this site is never.
I'm not arguing about the facility.
No, if I can just have the opportunity to speak. What for me this facility can bring to the local area is far more than football. It is far more than rugby. I live locally, represent locally, work locally, and I can say from working 2 miles up the road what this can bring, not just to 16 to 18-year-olds in Blacon, but to Upton, in Leitch, in Sorble, in Waverton, in Christleton, so they don't have to get onto public transport and go to Ellesmere Port or to Deeside, is massive. And for a football club to have that just a few miles down the road with the Chester badge on it, you're going to generate more interest in this football club through that hub. You're going to generate more interest and more income in that football club from having this just a few miles. The badge is going to be there. It's going to represent everything that football club want to be as a community facility. And I think, like I say, for me, just listening to you tonight and not before tonight or going to any documents, what you can bring to the local community will be massive. You want people to come and sweep your corridors and sweep out the tunnel. You're talking about 16 to 18-year-old youths and apprentices who would love to do that. And by maybe moving away slightly, I would agree that you're going to keep that special moment of playing at Chester FC. People will want to hire the facility privately to have that moment, to bring their teams here, to bring their clubs here, to have that special moment. I can only see that it can benefit the whole of the local community. And my question is, how long is it going to take?
It's a good question. Very good question. Cheers, Andrew. So, it's difficult to give a precise answer, and the primary reason for that is because there is a fundraising target. The quicker we can achieve that target, the quicker this scheme will progress.
Maybe,
the other factor, sorry.
Maybe, I can imagine that Chester Gladiators, yeah, you're excited about getting your club badge on that building, just like the Chester FC. I want my club badge on that building. You know, we can help with that investment if we can be coming on board. You know, there's another.
Absolutely.
And I know that you're going to go to consultation.
Yeah.
Come in our club's direction. We're just a grassroots club.
Yeah.
Okay, but we're supposed to be what this is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I think, one of the things we're getting a little bit hung up on is Chester Football Club. Sorry?
Why do you practice?
I'm not afraid to
yeah.
I'm here impartially.
No,
I can see the benefits
yeah.
this is going to bring to everybody.
This is of course about Chester Football Club because it's Chester FC Community Trust, it's Chester FC Academy, it's you know, it's ingrained in it. However, this is about a bigger picture as well, and that's why we wanted this to be a public meeting. This is about the community. You know, I live in Chester, I'm passionate about Chester, lived in Chester all my life. Callum's the same, I'm sure a lot of you are the same. I think we can deliver something really special for people in Chester, and the football club is the vehicle to do that. And I'm passionate about the football club, and I think for me that's an unbelievable opportunity. Yeah, I echo everything Lindsay said there about the potential. We may not necessarily know how big this is until it happens, until that site is there and it is full of people. Yes, there will be some difficult conversations that we'll have to go through, and that's why we're going to go to consultation now. Talk to residents, talk to our supporters, talk to the wider community. Yeah, it's never easy, but I agree with Lindsay. It would, you know, how quickly can we do it? It's a phased scheme, so as you all know, the grass pitches and the 3G pitch will be treated separately. I would like to say that work will start on the site this summer. Now that may not necessarily be the 3G pitch, that may be more focused on the grass pitches and the existing pavilion. My ambition is that this site will be ready and open to the public by the start of the 2021 season. Okay, so that's about 18 months.
The council they want to spend the money in the financial year 1920, which starts the 1st of April, so they want to spend their significant amount of income.
So that gives us just over 12 months. So the council would hope that their investment in this site is spent just over 12 months. Now, the actual work, constructing a 3G pitch is a lot of work, would probably take somewhere between the region of 4 and 6 months. But if we can start that work before the end of the next financial year, then that would be in line with that target. But as I say, we've got to raise that £300,000 to make this deliverable.
By when?
As quickly as possible. I won't put a definitive answer on it, but yeah, what we need to consider is that because there are grant funding applications, we would have to go to panels and present what we've done tonight really to that panel for approval. That panel only meets certain times of the year. So there is a panel meeting in June, which realistically is too soon. There is a panel meeting in October, which is probably a more realistic target. The next panel meeting after that would be in January. So,
will they expect you to present details of what you've got up to in the 300,000?
Yes, we wouldn't be able to go to panel without a significant part of that £300,000 in place. They will want to be convinced that the scheme is viable. They've already given a lot of positive encouragement, so they are ready to start the process of their project manager going out to the site, undertaking the investigations and inspections. So they feel it is a viable project, but in order to move to the next stage, they would want to feel more confident in that. Yes?
Jim, Dave Carty, 1.6 billion, is it a prerequisite that we raise our £300,000 before the full £300,000 is raised from our source before the scheme can start?
No. So because of the different elements of the scheme, so the grass pitches, the 3G pitch, the existing building and the new building, the Football Foundation and the council's, the majority of the council's investments is geared towards the 3G pitch and the new clubhouse, because that will deliver the best outcomes for the community in terms of participation in sport and wider impact. The grass pitches and the existing building, work on that element could start a lot sooner. The Section 106 planning contribution, which is a substantial amount and would cover the full renovation of those 2 pitches, that will come forward as and when that land is sold to a developer. Now, it's on the market at the moment. It's a substantial housing development with planning approval. Now, that could be sold. That could be sold next week. It could be months. We don't know. That's out of our hands. What we need to be is flexible enough so that as and when that happens, we can seize that and start work and get this project moving.
So what we're saying is the only 2 elements which are missing at the moment is Section 106, which is guaranteed if the development goes on.
Correct.
And it's got to be spent in the local community. It has to be spent in Blacon.
It actually has to be spent on this site. It is designated. It cannot be spent on another site.
2 grass pitches.
2 grass pitches.
Not the 3G.
Yeah, which is quite unusual for it to be so, so specific.
So the Section 106, which is guaranteed if the planning permission goes ahead in the land, and our 300,000, they're the only 2 elements missing at the moment.
Correct.
The Stewart's money is guaranteed.
Correct.
The capital grant money from Cheshire West is guaranteed.
Yes.
And the funding from the national governing body is guaranteed.
Subject to us bring.
So we're a long way down the road already. I know it's a big sum of money,
yeah.
but we're a long way down the road, aren't we?
Yeah. We talk about a £1.6 million scheme. We are significantly down that road already. So I won't give the specifics of what the council's investment is, but it is substantial. And allied with Stewart's, that takes us probably to 40%. The big piece is the grant from the national governing bodies. They have been really, really encouraging about this scheme. It delivers everything they are looking to do. The match funding from the council, the match funding that Stewart's putting in, the match funding that we're proposing we can put in, it's a great project. There's lots of partners involved, and those partnerships will grow over time as we engage with clubs and leagues. So it ticks all the boxes. The national governing bodies, they want this scheme to succeed. There are, as you say, there are a couple of bits that need to fall into place. One is the Section 106, and the other is our contribution.
Mark Twain wrote a book very thin and said, anybody with a new idea is a crank until the idea works. Now, Storyhouse, I seem to recall, went back to there's a bit of slightly from the sidelines about that. Now, who here would want that to disappear from Chester? Certainly not me. I'd also like to make a point about society. Sports is incredibly important to society. Society is changing for the better. The national knife crime statistics are pretty horrific. The national drug, especially synthetic drug statistics are also pretty horrific. If this scheme can save one person from losing the potential of being either the next beggar or addicted to spice and living on the streets, I would be powerless. That's something all got to think about what's happening generally in society.
Absolutely, yeah. It's as I said, it is about the wider community. It's easy to look at it as just a sports facility, but sport is such a powerful vehicle to do so many things. We already do that with the community trust. So we use sport to educate children on other areas. So whether that be healthy lifestyles, respect, there's lots of different ways it can be done. This would provide a facility that can be utilised for those kind of projects. So there are huge benefits for society.
Jim, I've supported this football for over 40 years, and listening to your passion and the detail behind it, I don't see any negatives at all for the community and for the football club as a whole. And anybody that can, I just don't get it. Just don't get it at all. There's no negatives in this for me that I can see in the football club or the community as a whole.
Just
it's trying to pitch it to the community. Yeah. It's just saying to the fan base. We're saying to this the community of Chester.
And a big portion of that 300,000 we believe we can achieve through engaging with local businesses. So that, as I say, there are commercial opportunities at the site. So pitch side advertising. This will be used by thousands of people every week. So it's probably that pitch side advertising is significantly more valuable than pitch side advertising out there where it's only seen on a Saturday afternoon. Potential naming rights for this facility. There are other examples where that's been done. I did say there was commercial opportunities, but how they play out, I don't want to get too hung up on what that income stream might be, but it could be significant. Storyhouse is a great example. There are a lot of local businesses who've got behind that scheme. One of them, MB&M, who've been behind us since 2010. So it's such a good community project that any business out there that's community minded and wants to see Chester as a better place to live and work could really get behind this. Again, that could be really significant as we get towards that 300,000. What we're not doing is coming to the CFU with a begging bowl saying, right, fill out £300,000. Okay, this is not just about the CFU, not just about Chester Football Club, it's the community as a whole. This is a community facility that thousands of people will be able to use. Lots of clubs, lots of leagues, lots of teams will be using it. Okay, we need to try and engage and motivate and inspire all of those people to contribute. If we can do that, and we're not just talking to a room of 80 people or 1,700 members, and we're actually talking to Chester, which is a big city and with a big surrounding area, then I don't think that's an unrealistic target. But you're quite right, if we just ask the same people, and we keep asking, the well will run dry. So this is about the wider community.
That's not my intention, is it?
He's persistent. Rob?
There's a gentleman who, on Twitter, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, a very well-known restaurant in Hull, who has done numerous crowdfundings online, on Twitter. He raised £100,000 in 12 hours worldwide to help complete one of his restaurants in Manchester. Are you telling me that we don't have, between us all, contacts to spread out further to hit that £300,000 and think about the community, not just within Chester, people who are exiles, people who are on the other side of the world who have their connection? We can do that, and this project is going to change the club, the community trust, the academy and the city. And I think if we can't get behind this, then it's staring everyone in the face. Chester needs this. Chester needs everyone behind this. I'm not talking about Chester FC, I'm talking about the city here.
Les?
Just a minor point about the pitches. You're going to have floodlights on the all-weather, the 3G pitch. And the first team, obviously, from what you said, aren't going to be able to use it for training because other people are going to use it in the evenings.
Yeah.
Is there any mechanism that the grass pitches can be used in the evenings?
So floodlighting on the grass pitches is a possibility. It's not something that's in our proposal at the moment. One of the reasons for that is that grass pitches are, as I'm sure Mike Barry can tell you, very temperamental and need a great deal of maintenance and love and care. They deteriorate very quickly, so the maintenance cost of a grass pitch is between £5,000 and £6,000 a year for a decent quality. That's not academy standard, that's a decent quality grass pitch. If you think that the going rate to hire a grass pitch is probably between £40 and £60 a game, and you can work out how many games you can play on that grass pitch every year, it's almost impossible to recoup enough income through that grass pitch to maintain it properly, even allowing for the weather and the damage to the pitch. So it's a possibility, but I think what you would be doing is placing more pressure on that grass pitch, making it more difficult to maintain and less likely to be used.
I'm thinking more.
Okay. Just to say thank you very much for coming out this evening and listening to us. Hopefully you're enthusiastic and energised by what we've said. A lot of work has gone into it to this point. As I said earlier, there is a lot of work ahead. You know, we're not hiding from that. We recognise that. But we believe that this is probably an opportunity that isn't going to come along again for us as a football club and for us as a community in Cestrians. It would be a massive shame if we didn't grasp it. I really hope we get behind it. If you want to get involved, if you've got any questions, I'm going to stay around. Please come and see me. whatever you think you can do, whether it's throwing a couple of quid in a bucket, whether it's something more substantial, whether it's picking up a paintbrush, whatever it is, we need you to come and help us make it happen. Thanks very much.